Okay, what's up you guys? I wanted to do a video on how to find your personal style just because it's my most frequently asked question. Okay, so I haven't broken down into examining why you want to find your personal style and what you're trying to say. I think examining why you want to have your personal style is important because it will shape how you're planning to shop, if that makes sense. Why do you care about how to find your personal style, if that makes sense? Why is it important to you to find your personal style? You should have moments in getting dressed that are connected to who you are and what you like and what your sensibilities and expectations are of the world around you, your environment, how comfortable you are in a space, how you move through a space, emotionally, physically, and all of those things can be reflected in the way that you fashion an identity. So for example, my why is because I felt like I had no control or clarity in my life in general. I also felt out of control of how people perceived me and my reputation. And so I wanted to create clarity and strength instead of ambiguity and confusion by controlling my appearance and instead expressing those emotions in the appearance that I constructed. And then I think that goes directly into what are you saying and what story are you planning on telling. It doesn't have to be so literal where you sit down and write out a story. It's not costuming for a film necessarily, but it kind of is, if that makes sense. It kind of is you are constructing your outward identity and considering how you plan to signal to other people, and whether we like it or not, whether that's problematic or not, whether this is rooted in capitalism and whatever or not, the ways that we construct identities over time affect how people perceive us and affect how we perceive ourselves and look back on ourselves. And if you're always looking back and cringing at your personal style in the past, I was literally constantly just being oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I remember I'd look at my Tumblr pictures and be how come I only have one good picture per year where I'm this is communicating exactly what I want it to. And it's because that was the only time I was ever sharing my actual personal style and not just buying random clothes that I like and then wearing them. Does that make sense? So when I wrote is what are you saying, and then who are you saying it to, how are you saying it, when and where are you saying it, and what is your objective in communicating it to me. And I'm not telling you what you need to do, and if you don't like my personal style and if you don't like my advice, I don't believe that you should follow it. But to me, there's a massive difference between what you like and what your personal style is. I know that I wear the same neutral color palette every day, and I have for years now, but I like sometimes when other people are colorful. I like when other people wear different colors on them. I value colors in nature as well, but I have always liked neutral color palette on me and the best. And I think that that's why I gravitate toward it when I'm getting dressed, because it serves me and the identity that I'm trying to construct. Even if I like something else, it's not what I need to have on me. And that's not something everybody believes. There are a lot of people who believe if you like it, just buy it, just wear it. But I've never dressed in that way and felt super confident about my appearance and felt secure in my identity when I just buy whatever I like, because to me that's not the same thing as what I'm trying to communicate on my body. What I'm trying to say on my body is different than every single thing I like, and not everybody has to see fashion that way, because that's not what it has to be for everybody, but that is what it is for me. It sounds like I'm saying you have to be pretentious and be doing all of this work to tell a singular narrative and look in one way, and you're not allowed to do certain things, but you can do whatever you want with personal style. The whole point is that you have a perspective and a narrative and expectations when you're getting dressed that revolve around your sensibilities and the way that you interact with your reality. And I think it's helpful to see personal style as a platform for storytelling rather than self-expression, which is really vague and broad. Storytelling is what you're trying to communicate to the outside world and to yourself, to your past self, to your present self, to your future self. What are you trying to say in this present moment? It's what book are you writing right now when you're getting ready? And just know if you're not saying something, we can't hear it. And if you are saying something, we can. And that's how fashion signaling works. We interpret what codes you're signaling, whether you mean to or not. So it's just that careful consideration for the story that you're trying to share. So I'm going to try to answer them because I feel this is really confusing. I wrote this all last night on live. Okay. So what am I saying when I get dressed? Like I said, when I first started my personal style, I was saying I'm sad, I'm confused, I'm muddled, I'm lost, I'm directionless. Oh my god, it sounds so sad. I wasn't that sad, but I mean, I was definitely in deep despair, but whatever. So I was saying I'm sad, I'm confused mostly.
and I want to be close to nature, and I feel like I am close to nature and I value nature. That's what I was saying. Who was I saying it to? Okay, so think of who you want to signal to. This sounds like when people are like manifesting and like put dots around your eyes, but that's not what I'm trying to say. Literally just think about who you're signaling to. Whoever you can think of that you would be like, it would slay if I could signal to them when I get dressed. Do that, because how do you know that that's not going to happen? Like, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to like talk, it feels like I'm saying like manifesting, but it's not even about manifesting. It's just about like when you're constructing an identity, you should be if you care about constructing an identity that's satisfying to you, I don't want to say like vain or superficial, but I am saying like you are clearly trying to strategically express yourself in relationship with the identity that you plan on constructing. And so I'd say have that in mind. Like when I get dressed, I'm like thinking about my gallerist wife. Like that's honestly where my first thought goes to in my brain. Like if I want to, you know, if I'm walking down the street in Williamsburg and I pass a gallerist wife, like yes, I'd feel very confident that like this is who I am, and you hopefully can understand a little bit about who I am, and I can feel comfortable getting to know somebody looking how I look, like because I feel powerful and strong and confident in who I am and how I look because of, you know, what I've done to a fashion identity. Oh, your style. Okay, I think your style can be communicated with any brand, and I think that that is the case. Like I think I could walk into Forever 21, Walmart, Fresh Jive, Rick Owens, anywhere and be like, this is for me and this is not. And that's because I don't let the brands sell to me, because again, I have a story that I plan on telling, and it's like through a lane. It's not that I can't incorporate other things into it. I definitely can if that's what I want to and if that's what I feel, but I can tell my story through any brand because it's what I'm trying to say. It's me. It's like, what is Ryan? Oh my God, I hate talking in third person, but it's like, what am I trying to say versus what is a brand selling that I like? A brand selling that you like means you're attaching to something that someone else is telling, and that's fine. It makes sense. Jesus Christ, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying, like, I can imagine things and I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly what I was gonna think of, and then I see that someone else is selling it. That is like a really cool like slay moment, and it comes from having your own like personal sensibilities and expectations of a brand rather than letting them tell you what's going on and what's cool. Like your agenda setting for the brand. You're like, I expected this of you. I don't see it here, so no thank you. You know, instead of coming into a store and being like, tell me what I should do. There's nothing wrong with coming into a brand or a store and being enchanted by what they do. That's really cool and really like exciting. I need to stop saying slays, but it's really exciting and can be really fulfilling. But I think you should have some expectations and some things you like. Like I have friends who love big pockets because they need to have big pockets because they don't carry a purse. That is your story that you're telling. Not like, what do you buy that the company wants you to buy so that you bought it, da-da-da-da-da. Like that line of thinking is like conventional dressing. When you're doing self-expression based on your personal style, you're not thinking like, well, the company's selling this in the store, so I'm going to the store and I'm buying it and then I'm wearing it. Like literally, what do you want to do? When people used to tweet, I remember they'd be like, wait until I'm rich, then I'm gonna be able to dress. I'm not saying like just magically become rich and buy the exact designer clothes or whatever that you want if that's what you want to do, but I'm just saying like dress in the way that you imagine you could to the best of your ability all the time, instead of being like later, because I think that's what was holding me back personal style wise, that I would be like, it's not really for me, I'm not really in my it girl era, I don't really feel beautiful at this point, I'm not comfortable with my gender, which is valid and very like real, so I'm not saying like shame, but I'm just saying like I wasn't comfortable with myself, so I was like pushing it off. I was like, I'll dress how I want to later, I'll dress like quote unquote like cool in a way that I think I'll be looking back on in a positive way later, and I would just push it off, and I'm just like, why? Like, why should I push it off and let other people dress exactly how they want to the best of their ability within their financial constraints, and then I'm just wearing shit I don't like just because I can't afford it? Like, what if I just went to 15 thrift stores like on my days off until I found one thing that I really liked, instead of what I was doing at the time, which was shopping out of FOMO and anxiety and being like, I have to get something, like I'm in the thrift store, I have to buy something. I would, instead of buying like the things of my dreams or saving up or waiting or taking a long time to find something that I wanted, I remember I'd shop to the trends, but I would thrift it. So whatever's the popular trend at the time, like, I don't know, corsets, I'd be like in the thrift store like, and I got a corset at the thrift store. It's like, do you want a corset? Like, why does it matter that that's a big trend and you found it at the thrift store for $3? You could have saved it and had spent $0, because who said you wanted a corset? You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I'm saying about like the company's agenda setting and then you following through and being like, well, it's in the store, so I have to buy it. I don't agree with that. Like, it didn't satisfy me. I never looked back and was like, I'm so happy I bought that corset for me. I'm so happy that that's what I wanted. I bought that for me. I would be like, okay, I'm not in the FOMO feeling like, okay, I've satisfied that anxiety. Like I didn't miss out on the trend. Nobody can say I'm behind on trends because I'm doing what I'm supposed to. But it's like personal style is not supposed to be doing what you're supposed to. It's supposed to be like fulfilling and satisfying for you.
So I showed some outfits that I said were always my favorite pictures of myself, and you can see that they have a tether between the way that I dress now and those outfits, the color palettes, the styling. And it's because I wasn't understanding that these are my sensibilities. The shapes, the draping, the cuts, the color palette, those are the things that I like to see on myself when I get dressed. That is the story I want to tell. Those are my sensibilities, my expectations of a brand and of their clothes. And that's what my actual personal style was. And that's why I was so dissatisfied wearing other things.
It's not supposed to be you doing something right. It's not supposed to be you following the rules. It's not supposed to be you adhering to something someone else has constructed. It's supposed to be you being like, this is exactly what I want to say. It doesn't matter if corsets are in or out. It doesn't matter if corsets do or don't like supposedly look good for your body type, skin color, whatever. You're supposed to be doing whatever you want to do. It's supposed to be your fantasy. It's like if you get a creative writing project. What do you want to say? You know, you can't limit yourself. What inhibits you and what's the rush are completely connected. Because what inhibits you, of course, when I was like getting dressed before, money, hello, hi, money, I didn't have money. I kind of did have money. I didn't have a lot of money, but I had like $30 for the thrift store, maybe once or twice a month. That's 60 bucks. Actually, I definitely did not have $30, but let's say like 25. Let's say like 20, but like 40 bucks to 60 bucks a month, going to the thrift store and getting a ton of stuff. Thinking about what inhibits you and then relating that to the concept of the rush. If it's your personal style, what's the rush? Why can't you save up a month to get something? Why can't you save up a year to get something? Why can't you slow down and like participate in slow fashion if it's your actual story you want to tell? If you're like shopping based on FOMO, or if you're constructing an identity in fashion based on FOMO, exclusion, trend following, etc., of course there's a lot of rush because you don't want to miss out. You don't want to be, left behind. You don't want to fall behind where everybody else is able to signal status. But I'm just saying, if it is your true story that you want to tell, it doesn't really matter what the time period is. You should be doing exactly what you want, and you're never going to look back and regret doing exactly what you wanted and being yourself and, taking the risk to be yourself. I don't know. I just think it's there. Yeah, it should be slow. Like, take your time. I didn't have money. Like I said, I didn't have money. I worked in the mall. And I always am saying, when people are like, saying like, oh, but if you're poor, you deserve to look good too, and like da. I really don't know. Like, first of all, I did not feel like I looked good. I feel like I looked trendy and like bad, mostly like a trendy zombie and like bad. But besides that, I don't know that that's the only way to be satisfied as someone who is low income, working class, etc. I'm like, I think I would have had a lot healthier, better time if I spent money, one, on therapy at that time, two, on like caring for my friends and like building healthier friendship. But I do regret spending money just like frivolously to make sure that I didn't feel the anxiety of feeling left out in fashion. Like spending money on things that I think are more satisfying, fulfilling, that like capitalism doesn't tell us are fulfilling. Like spending time outside reading a book for me would have been a lot better in college. Like I don't know. They make you think like this is what you deserve as a low income or a working class person. You deserve, quote unquote, to buy into the trends. I'm like, maybe we deserve like a massage. Like maybe we deserve like a facial. The corporations make you think like, you don't let these people tell you not to spend your money with us constantly. You deserve it, Miss Thing. Like, I don't agree with treat yourself, because they are always like treat yourself, and it always happens to be spending money with large corporations. Treat yourself is never just like spend time by yourself. Treat yourself is never like take a nice hot bath and read a book. It's never like do some community organizing. Treat yourself is never volunteering. But volunteering is really satisfying. Interesting how they don't want us to volunteer, but they want us to buy a cheap crop top. Treat yourself. It's like, I don't really think that there's any rush. I think that taking care of yourself is something that goes really slow, and I think that that's why personal style should be like, it's okay to be slow. You should be researching, why is this your personal style? So how are you gonna say that you have to do it fast and like there's some urgency around it? Why is this your personal style? What is the story that you're telling? Who are the people that you're shopping with? Why? Why? Why do you have to buy from that company, that brand, that designer even? That thrift store? Why? If you're taking time to research all this stuff, it takes a long ass time to understand these brands. I don't know anybody who has like a day job that has time to research brands and can do it really, really quickly, and then just be like, okay, now I'm gonna shop with them. Like, it takes me hours to research one brand, even though I already know all of these brands. It takes me so long. Like, it'll take me an entire day just to get through one part of a brand's like history. Maybe I read kind of slow. Maybe this is like a disability reveal. Like, maybe I can't read, but I really don't think it's that easy to learn these things. So I'm like, maybe take the time to figure out, like, if you're interested in high fashion and like fashion designers, why? Take some time to research why you care about that. And then figure out who do you like. Don't just think like because it's designer that you have to buy it. Why? Okay, why this designer? Okay, once you figure out why that designer, why this collection? Why this season? Like, I collect Rick Owens 2002 to 2012 because those are the collections I like. I literally, like, I'm not just going to buy something just because it's from a designer. I know what I like, and I think that developing what you like helps you with your personal style, and like knowing how to say no and knowing why you're saying no is how you have a strong sense of personal style. That's a part of the story. When people are like, oh, did you see this from Rick Owens? Did you see this? That is not a part of my story. Like, slay for Rick, but I'm like, that's not in my story. And you should have like brands and aspects of brands, identities that you're like, no, this does not fit into my story, because there's no, like, when you do a creative, like I said, when you do a creative writing project, you're not including every single thing that you've ever thought in the whatever you say. You're choosing to tell a specific story. Why? Figure that out, like, period. I think one of my biggest missions is to get people to find their personal style, because I think it was like a revolutionary experience for me in my little world. We all have our own little world. So the way that I started developing part of my personal style, like more recently, with the emotional abuse, gaslighting, pathological lying, racism, isolation, like somebody controlling my life, right? So I felt completely out of control. I felt completely out of control of my reputation and the way that people perceived me. I felt like I was in another world for a very long time, because essentially I was completely in the dark and isolated from everyone I knew, and afraid of everyone I knew, and afraid of how people perceived me and what people believed about me and what I could do to change those things. And I took control over my aesthetic appearance, to feel control over the way that I feel about myself, the way that I feel about how other people perceive me, etc. And it gave me like a massive sense of power. And that's kind of how I dressed. I dressed with a lot of layers because I felt like I needed protection, I needed security. I dressed in this like really muddy earth tone color palette, which was really popular at the time as well. It's not like just, oh my god, I'm so deep. Like, you know, it was very popular, especially in New York City, to dress in those tones. And I always have liked neutrals and dark colors more than anything for my personal style. But I'll talk a little bit later about what you like versus personal style. But I was really confused, and I dressed in a way that was like confused, conflicting. The related aspects of my appearance all conflicted with each other, and I wanted my appearance to lack harmony in a lot of ways. And I think that that's kind of like why I dress the way that I dress. I know that that's like kind of confusing and unexpected. I kind of shaped that around sensibilities of designers that I feel like I had a lot in common with, to the best of my ability. I can't really afford everything from every designer that has work that really speaks to me, but I think that that's part of why I really connected with Rick Owens' work, because it seemed like he felt isolated and different and othered, but that he wanted to create his own cult and his own tribe. And when I would wear them, I would feel so powerful. I'd feel like I was a part of something larger than me. I would feel like that I was saying something much larger than me. And so I started collecting Rick Owens 2002 to 2012 fall winter pieces mostly. And it made me realize the power that I feel in constructing an identity outwardly, rather than just knowing what I know. Yeah, I've been pretty much only trying to dress like Lie With Me, that film. I think that I dress the most like the Alien films. I think that's why they've been the most repeated point of reference for me. As far as literature, I think the book that had the most impact on me is Fashioning Identity, Status Ambivalence by Maria McKinney Valentine. That book is not about how to find your personal style, you know? It's not a book of here's the tips on what you need to buy, this way you can be cool or feel cool or assert status. It's not an instructional guide. It explains why we get dressed and what power it holds in which different circumstances and contexts. And understanding that power and how to wield it is how I started working toward developing my personal style, in my opinion, in the most effective way that I ever have. I had never felt so comfortable with myself inside and out as I have since I started reading that book and understanding like status and power, and also because of the like life circumstances that I have now, like class privilege that I have now, and the lifestyle that I have now, like doing art full time and things like that. A lot of things at the same time fell into my lap that helped me understand the value of self-expression through fashioning identity. And I think Fashioning Identity, the book, and like Fashion Desire and Anxiety, When Clothes Become Fashion by Ingrid Loschek, those books as well really, really helped me center in on the value of aesthetic like construction, if that makes sense. And then as far as runway videos, I think when I did my Jean-Paul Gaultier, Rick Owens, and Margiela deep dives, where I just rewatched every single runway shows, I think that also contributed a lot to my personal style, because it helped me value like the cult that comes with consistency and like house codes for these fashion brands and houses. And for me, like the codes of my like dressing, if that makes sense. Like there are certain things and certain aesthetics and certain images that people look at and they associate with me, and I really, really, really highly value that, because to me it feels like people understand me and understand these sensibilities that I have, that I've been growing for the last like 20 or so years. When you develop personal style and when you value how you look and how you dress, it can make you see that that's the point of life. Ew, it's so corny, but like that's kind of the point of life, is just hearing everybody out for what they have to say and what stories everybody wants to tell and what makes everybody else unique and what people like and don't like and how they think and why that makes them them, and like how that can change and how culture can impact that and personal experiences can impact that. And that's like all life really is. Like that's what movies are, that's what books are, that's what getting dressed can be. And I think that's really cool. Like, and it's not, there's no right or wrong. It's just like the value is that's what that person wanted to say. And it makes you a lot, I think, the more you learn about fashion, the more you learn about yourself and your own personal style, I think the less critical you are of other people's personal style. Ryan Yip said that on TikTok, and that's something that I noticed as well. Like the more that you learn about fashion and different subcultures and different fashion identities over time, the more you're like, instead of being like, that's ugly, that's stupid, I would never wear that, that doesn't look good on you, da 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 da, you're like, I can see that that's what that person wanted to say. You know, there are reasons why people want to fashion identities for themselves. Some people want to look like a Barbie girl, and that's their tea. They want to look like hyper glam, high gloss Barbie girl. And then there's some people that want to be goth and completely divest from that. And I think they both have points. Fashion is really cool. And Yohji Yamamoto said you can copy, and then you find yourself. And I think that that's the tea. Like Yohji said it best. Like, you know. Yeah, this was my video on finding your personal style. I hope it made sense. You guys asked me, and we're like almost a day late, so I hope that made sense. I'm gonna lay down real hard today. Thanks, guys.